Chapter 10: The Care and Feeding of Nervous Systems, on caring for the instrument through which reality is experienced. Throughout this book, we have explored many of the major terrains of human life. We have explored human nature, love, marriage, meaning, success, mortality, and the guideposts that help orient us through those realities. Yet all of those chapters leave an important question unanswered. If much of wisdom is already known, why is it so difficult to live? Why does a person understand something clearly and yet struggle to embody it? Why does insight fail to become action? Why does knowledge fail to become wisdom? Part of the answer may lie in a simple fact that modern life often encourages us to overlook. Human beings do not experience reality as disembodied minds. We experience reality through bodies, through emotions, through physiology, through nervous systems. Every thought, every memory, every relationship, every act of meaning-making, every experience of fear, joy, grief, love, hope, anxiety, belonging, or loneliness arrives through the same medium, a finite nervous system carrying consciousness through time. The nervous system is not a side issue in human life. It is the instrument through which life itself is experienced. This distinction matters because there is often a significant difference between knowing something intellectually and knowing it in the body. A person may know they are safe while their body remains vigilant. A person may know they are loved while their nervous system remains guarded. A person may know they should rest while remaining unable to settle. A person may know that a fear is irrational while still feeling its effects. The intellect can arrive somewhere long before the body does. This helps explain why insight alone is often insufficient. Human beings are not merely creatures of information. We are creatures of experience. We learn not only through ideas but through repeated encounters with reality, through relationships, through emotional experience, through safety and danger, through loss and belonging. The body learns in ways the conscious mind does not always fully understand. Wisdom, therefore, involves more than understanding reality. It involves helping the nervous system develop the capacity to inhabit reality. And this task has become increasingly difficult in the modern world. Human beings evolved within environments that were local, relational, physical, and relatively slow-moving. Most information arrived through direct experience. Most relationships occurred face-to-face. Most threats were immediate and concrete. Today, many people live inside environments their nervous systems were never designed to navigate. Continuous news, continuous stimulation, continuous comparison, continuous interruption, infinite information, infinite outrage, infinite opportunities to become distracted, alarmed, offended, anxious, or overwhelmed. The result is that many people spend large portions of their lives physiologically activated, not necessarily because immediate danger exists, but because their attention is constantly being recruited by systems optimized to capture it. Attention is not merely a cognitive resource, it is a biological one. What receives repeated attention influences emotional experience, perception, memory, and behavior. Over time, the things we repeatedly consume become part of the psychological environment within which the nervous system operates. One useful metaphor is to imagine yourself as the chief curator of your mind and the gatekeeper of your psyche. A curator does not create every object that enters a museum, but helps determine what is displayed, what is emphasized, and what receives attention. A gatekeeper does not control every influence that exists in the world, but exercises discernment about what is repeatedly invited inside. The same responsibility exists within psychological life. Every day we make choices about what receives our attention, what narratives we repeatedly consume, what emotional environments we inhabit, and what influences are allowed to become permanent residents of the mind. We cannot control everything, but we can influence far more than we often realize. The quality of a life is shaped not only by what happens to us, but by what we repeatedly allow into our inner world. Stewardship of attention is therefore stewardship of consciousness itself. This realization naturally leads to a broader question. How does one care for a nervous system? The answer is surprisingly ordinary. Sleep, rest, movement, silence, friendship, meaningful work, reasonable boundaries, time in nature, recovery, rhythm. None of these are particularly glamorous, yet they remain foundational. Human beings often search for extraordinary solutions while neglecting ordinary necessities. A nervous system that is chronically exhausted, overstimulated, isolated, or overwhelmed will struggle to carry reality well. The goal is not optimization. The goal is stewardship. Optimization treats the self as a machine to be improved. Stewardship treats the self as a living organism to be cared for. The distinction is important. Machines are expected to maximize output. Living organisms require renewal. One of the most damaging assumptions of modern life is the belief that human beings can continuously consume, produce, perform, and achieve without consequence. Reality suggests otherwise. Every organism requires rhythms of effort and recovery, exertion and restoration, engagement and withdrawal, activity and rest. The failure to respect these rhythms often appears later as exhaustion, anxiety, irritability, numbness, cynicism, or despair. Many people do not need more productivity. They need more recovery, more spaciousness, more room for their nervous systems to settle. Yet perhaps the most important insight about nervous systems is that they are rarely regulated entirely alone. Human beings influence one another continuously. A calm parent can soothe a frightened child. A trusted friend can help carry grief. A compassionate spouse can soften anxiety. A reassuring voice can reduce fear. A warm presence can communicate safety without speaking a word. Relationships are not merely exchanges of information. They are exchanges of nervous system states. We regulate one another constantly, often without realizing it. This may help explain why relationships occupy such a central place in human life. Love is not merely an emotional experience, nor merely a psychological one. At its deepest level, love often functions as a form of co-regulation. The experience of not carrying reality alone. The experience of another person helping our nervous system settle. Attachment begins here. An infant does not regulate itself. It is regulated through relationship, through touch, through presence, through attunement, through care. Much of adult love retains these same foundations. Not dependency, not helplessness, but mutual support, mutual regulation, mutual participation in one another's well-being. One of the deepest gifts another human being can offer is not advice. It is presence, the feeling that says, you do not have to carry this alone. There are many ways to understand love. Throughout this book, we have explored attachment, longing, commitment, intimacy, partnership, care, and belonging. Each of these illuminates part of the terrain. Yet perhaps one of the simplest descriptions is this: love is helping another nervous system feel safe enough to flourish. Not by removing all uncertainty, not by eliminating all suffering, not by solving every problem, but by becoming a source of steadiness amid uncertainty, a source of refuge amid difficulty, a source of acceptance amid struggle, a source of calm amid chaos. To love someone is partly to care for the conditions under which their nervous system can rest, and perhaps this reveals something important. The care and feeding of nervous systems is not merely a personal responsibility, it is also a relational one. Parents do it, partners do it, friends do it, communities do it. At our best, we help one another become more capable of carrying reality. This insight expands beyond romantic relationships. Friendships matter for the same reason. Families matter for the same reason. Communities matter for the same reason. Human beings are social creatures whose nervous systems function best within networks of trust, belonging, and support. We are more interconnected than we often imagine. The emotional climate we create affects those around us. The way we listen affects those around us. The way we respond to fear affects those around us. The way we carry reality affects those around us. Every person becomes part of another person's environment. This realization introduces a new dimension of responsibility. Caring for your own nervous system matters. Caring for the nervous systems of those you love matters too. A reassuring presence, a patient response, a moment of genuine listening, an atmosphere of safety. These may appear small, yet they can profoundly influence another person's experience of reality. Perhaps this is one of the deepest meanings of love. Not merely feeling affection, helping another human being carry existence. By the time we reach this point in the book, a pattern begins to emerge. The major terrains of life are not separate. Love influences the nervous system. Meaning influences the nervous system. Success influences the nervous system. Mortality influences the nervous system. The guideposts influence the nervous system. Everything connects, and all of it is ultimately experienced through the same finite instrument, a human being attempting to carry reality consciously across time. This realization invites a different relationship with ourselves. Less judgment, more stewardship, less optimization, more care, less pressure to become perfect, more willingness to become inhabitable. The goal is not mastery, the goal is capacity. The capacity to remain present, the capacity to remain connected, the capacity to remain open, the capacity to carry reality without becoming overwhelmed by it. And perhaps that is what wisdom increasingly looks like. Not possessing the right answers, not achieving permanent peace, not transcending the human condition, but learning how to care for the instrument through which the human condition is experienced. A finite nervous system, a finite body, a finite life, carrying reality as consciously, lovingly, and courageously as it can. And perhaps that is enough.